Okay. All right, hi, everybody. Nice to see everybody. Thanks for being here. We're thrilled to show Secretary Becerra, the first Latino Secretary of Health and Human Services in our history of our country, the wonderful work being done in Leominster and North Central Massachusetts to address hunger and nutrition challenges in our community. For those of you who might not know, Secretary Becerra actually got his start in Central Massachusetts, working at Community Legal Aid in Worcester, providing free legal advice to underserved communities. So
And I learned about Worcester.
yeah, he's got a little bit of
Worcester, right?
a little bit of a Worcester accent.
Worcester.
A huge thank you to Ann Yeagle and everyone here at Growing Places who worked tirelessly to put this today's visit together. Growing Places is an extraordinary initiative, and we just had a little briefing before we arrived here. It's really inspirational. And a big thank you to everyone here at the round table for sharing your expertise and stories. A special thank you to Eladia Romero on my team for being the glue that I also want to acknowledge my wife, Lisa McGovern, who is here. She actually works for a nonprofit called the Prevent Cancer Foundation. And so this whole discussion of not only food insecurity, but nutrition insecurity is imperative to the work that she does. So, Mr. Secretary, Leominster and the surrounding communities are a wonderful but all too often overlooked area of the state. There are working class neighborhoods comprised of both of families who have been here for generations and those who more recently call it home. Leominster itself has a vibrant Latino community as well as a growing Hmong community. And like my hometown of Worcester, it is a foreign manufacturing city reimagining itself in the 21st century. So as many of you know, for many years now, I've been calling for the White House to host a White House conference on hunger, nutrition, and health. The first and only White House conference on this topic was held back in 1969. That was the year we landed somebody on the moon. Some major policy changes came out of that conference, like the WIC program, the Women's Infants and Children's program, an expansion of school meals, and even things like iodized salt and fortified breads and cereals. But it's way past time that we hold another conference. And that's why I am thrilled that the Biden-Harris administration is finally hosting another conference in September. And I know that many of you have already participated in virtual listening sessions. Many of you have submitted recommendations formally to the White House conference. You know, we need to hear directly from people with lived experience, those who have faced hunger and nutrition insecurity personally, or who have worked on the ground at community organizations. We need to hear what really works. We also need to hear what doesn't work and the challenges, where the gaps are in well-meaning policy that sometimes, quite frankly, just misses the mark. Look, for far too long, the issue of hunger and health have been too siloed. And we were just commenting on the way over here, kind of the way our government is set up, makes it difficult to solve problems that require multiple agencies and departments to actually participate in finding a solution. In Congress, if you want to talk about hunger, you want to talk about SNAP, you have to go to the Agriculture Committee. You want to talk about school meals, that's the Education and Labor Committee. You want to talk about food as medicine, well, that's the Energy and Commerce Committee, or maybe the Ways and Means Committee. But we all don't get together and say, okay, what can we all put on the table? But we know that all of these issues are linked. And one of the main takeaways that I hope comes out of this conference is to finally recognize that hunger and a lack of access to nutritious food, they're health issues. And food is medicine. My grandmother, when I was growing up, always used to say to me, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? It would annoy me. But I wish she was still alive so I could say, you were right, right? Which brings us, and by the way, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, what's happening, here in Central Massachusetts, is a wheel that has already been invented. I was at University of California Davis campus last week and saw some incredible initiatives within their food services in the hospital, providing people with CSA bags when they leave, as well as recipes. Boston Medical Center here in Massachusetts is doing incredible things in terms of linking nutrition and health. You're going to hear from our friends at UMass Medical Center, also on the cutting edge. So, we are here today, Mr. Secretary, with an incredible, inspirational group of people who have firsthand experience with a number of innovative, forward-thinking programs that treat hunger as a health issue here in the Leominster area. And I hope that we can learn from them and consider how we might scale up some of the work that they've done, where HHS might be wind at their back as we move forward, how some of what's happening here could be a national model. And let me just close with this. This White House conference is not a press conference, right? It is about bringing everybody to the table and coming up with a roadmap to end hunger and nutrition insecurity in this country once and for all. By 2030 is the goal, by 2030. And I tell people all the time that hunger is a political condition. And what I mean by that is we have the food, right? We have the infrastructure, we have the knowledge, we have everything. We have lacked the political will. And we live in the richest country in the history of the world, and there are 40 million Americans who don't know where the next meal is going to come from. We should all be ashamed. And so, again, I want to thank the Secretary for being here, for his leadership on this. HHS will play a crucial role in this conference. And with that, I want to now recognize our great Secretary of Health and Human Services, Xavier Becerra.
Congressman McGovern, Lisa, thank you very much for inviting me to visit with you in your congressional district in the state of Massachusetts. It is good to be at least close to Worcester. I don't get to visit very often, but it's great to be here. If you know Jim McGovern, then you know that he's been trying to do this for a long time. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you go back to the days of the hunter-gatherers when 12,000 years ago, they were trying to figure out how do we provide food security for our growing flock of families. You can't just gather and hunt and survive. When they huddle to figure out what they do, I bet you there in that huddle was the quarterback, Jim McGovern, with his planting stick ready to tell folks what exactly we've got to do. And I bet I'd win that bet too. And certainly, I think now that we see where we're heading with this conference, it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for us to do what was done 53 years ago in 1969. It was game-changing, right? School lunch programs. We take that for granted. But for so many kids in America, if there were not a meal at school, there might not be a meal all day. And so we should try to think big, have that attitude that we're going to go bold, that we're going to make a difference in this conference the way they thought back in '69. That we're not just here to gather, we're here to change the world. And it's our opportunity. And so who better to have leading that pack than the guy who was probably doing this 12,000 years ago, your congressman.
I've aged well.
And we're pleased to be part of that, because we are going to make sure at HHS we make it very clear. Food is medicine. And if you want to talk about health, if you want to talk about nutrition, you got to talk about doing food and doing food right. And so we're going to do everything we can, from lowering the sodium content in meals. When I went and visited FDA, they told me of the work they're doing right now on sodium. You can buy a pack of potato chips in America today, and you'll find that same package by the same manufacturer in Europe.
Yep.
And the salt content, the sodium content in that package in Europe is drastically less than it is in the United States. That is intentional.
Yeah.
And why is it that in America, our food manufacturers are willing to, I won't say poison us, but put far more of these ingredients that we don't need, in fact, that are very harmful to us? Well, we're going to try to tackle that. And that's one of the issues that we hope will really surface loudly in this conference is that we can make a difference. We're going to finally try to define healthy, because there is no set definition of healthy. So you could buy a package in the grocery store that says it's healthy food, and you get another package that says the same thing, and they're totally different. It's time that Americans had a chance to be respected, and so that they don't have to try to understand all the ingredients and the level and the percentages. That healthy means healthy. And we're going to try to move in that direction. We're going to try to really amplify physical activity. We're going to try to point out how important it is that we do things. We get up, and it could be almost anything, right? Go take a walk. Go plant some fruits and vegetables. That's activity. It's not only good because you're going to generate food, but it keeps you active. And we're going to try to make sure we plant that seed as well. We're going to do a number of things. And the president has directed us to make sure that at this conference, we essentially fulfill the dream, I think, that Congressman McGovern has had for a long time, that we actually get serious about food and nutrition and how it impacts our health. We just had this great conversation, Ann, with you and your team about how there's such a disconnect between our schools and our food, our health systems and our food. And how do we finally integrate all of that? Well, hopefully this conference will try to tackle that. I'm thrilled to be here with you. I hope to learn more. Thanks for having me, Jim.
Well, thank you very much, and I want to and we're grateful to your entire team, including Melanie and Everett.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us. And Ann, I'm going to yield to you.
Absolutely. And so I think you can see everyone's names on their panels, and I know that we're running behind. So I think if it's okay with the congressman and the secretary, I will get right down to our panel, if that's all right. Great. So first on our list today, we have UMass Memorial Health Alliance Clinton Hospital. And we are at Growing Places quite familiar with UMass Memorial because we partner very closely on a food is medicine. We call it a prescription food pharmacy that we have just kicked off. And with us, next to me, I have Dr. Eric Dixon and our friend Teresa Russo from the Cancer Center at Health Alliance to talk about what they're doing.
Well, thank you, Ann.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much, Chairman McGovern and Secretary Becerra, for shining a light on this very, very important topic. My wife and I have had the chance the privilege to practice medicine in this community for about 30 years. And over the course of that 30 years, it's been amazing to see some of the therapies that have become available to us to treat patients with things like congestive heart failure, diabetes, and certain types of cancer. But unfortunately, some of those novel therapies, the effectiveness of them is severely blunted because our patients don't have access to something that is very basic, healthy food. Now, it would be very easy for us to say, in healthcare, it's not our responsibility to assure that the citizens of this country have access to healthy food. But we have not taken that approach. We believe that it's our responsibility to make sure that our patients get the right chemotherapy and the right nutritional therapy. For us, food is medicine, and that's why we created a food pharmacy in our regional cancer center here at Health Alliance Clinton that assures that our patients get not only the medications that they need, but the food that they need to get better. And I'm going to ask Terry Russo, the director of that regional center, to tell you a little bit more about that program. Terry?
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. Secretary Becerra, Congressman McGovern, thank you for allowing us to present our Food is Medicine program. As we all know, nutrition is important when patients are receiving cancer care. So eating healthy food before, during, and after treatment helps patients feel better and stay stronger. Using the social determinant of health screening in our electronic health record, we identified food insecurity as one of the issues and needs of our patients in the Cancer Center. So collaborating with our caregivers and our community partners, Growing Places, we developed our program Prescription Food Pharmacy with the following guiding principles. 1, it has to be easy for patients and their families. 2, it has to be easy for caregivers to make the referrals. 3, the process needed to be integrated into our electronic health record. 4, we wanted to circle back with our patients to make sure what we were providing was working. And 5, to provide the right nutrition to the right patient at the right time. So at the Cancer Center, when we identify patients who are in need, we refer them directly to growing places through our electronic medical record, where the patients get locally sourced, culturally appropriate, and diverse food resources. So that is easy for staff and EHR integration. Any caregiver can provide the patient with a resource bag, and the bag contains $40 worth of vouchers for fresh fruit and vegetables, a SNAP enrollment form, and community resources. So that's easy for our patients, and ER integrations, and we're circling back with the patient. And the referrals are made also to our oncology dietitian via the electronic health record, so she can then circle back with the patient once they visit the food market. The growing places, they're on site at the Cancer Center weekly, and they assist patients with fresh fruit and vegetable selections. They provide culturally appropriate recipes and cooking suggestions, and they also help patients enroll in SNAP benefits if they're eligible, and that is easy for our patients. So as we continue to the program, we do want to partner with additional community resources like Sprout Changes, who you'll hear from shortly. And we would like to offer food as medicine workshops culturally appropriate to our patients and families. And the workshops will be aimed at providing education about healing foods. So we hope our food pharmacy program will be used as a foundation to grow places and sprout change for other food as medicine programs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So next, and you already introduced her, is our other friend over here, Priscilla Espinosa, who is the Executive Director of Germaninos and Sprout Change, and they are also partner of Alliance as well as Growing Places. Take it away, Priscilla.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here today. Thank you, Congressman McGovern, for organizing this, and thank you, Secretary Becerra, for this great opportunity to share with you what we're doing here in North Central Massachusetts. As you may be aware, there's a 59% increase on food insecurity here in Massachusetts that has been worsened with the pandemic. And the programming that we are offering with Germaninos and Sprout Change provides multilingual in Spanish, Haitian Creole, French, as well as English programming on food as medicine, sprouting, natural remedies, herbs, as well as no-dig gardening. So we hope to provide local residents the empowerment and tools they need to be able to grow their own foods in their own kitchen, as well as empower them to be able to learn how to use these foods as a medicine. We focus our programming on disabled, elderly, women and children, as well as minority. In fact, our percentages based on organic programming attendance has been a 61% of non-white participants, and so we have an audience that really reflects the demographic of North Central Massachusetts. In our programs, we do look at social determinants of health, so every program provides childcare, as well as transportation stipends for individuals who have barriers to be able to attend our programming. We focused on 4 priority areas, which were health equity, social determinants of health, health system strengthening, as well as reducing the prevalence and burden of behavioral health, chronic and complex conditions and their risks, as well as healthy aging. We ran 6 series, which I shared earlier, also focusing on healthy aging, microgreens, food as medicine, sprouting. We did our programming in 5 locations that were open to the public, as well as 1 on-site medical facility at an adult day center. And we received, thanks to the funding that we received from UMass Memorial Health Alliance Clinton Hospital, it became a magnet to receive additional sponsorship. So we became connected with an incubator with MIT and WPI, Worcester Polytech Institute, where we were sponsored as a fellow to go through their small business incubator. We also receive in-kind sponsorship with senior advisors, And so we have a senior advisory board supporting our growth. We received legal counsel that was pro bono to support us in our contracting with our sponsors and advisors. And we also received matching funds through Growing Places, New View Community, NOFA-MAS, which is the Northeast Organic Farming Association. And right now, our funding is projected to grow. So NOFA-MAS received 3 times more funding this year to continue the Note and Garden program, which is a solution to climate change. And so you can grow more, use less resources like water and working. We do less weeding, and so it's really a magical solution with less effort. And it's perfect for both the floods that we had last year as well as the drought that we're experiencing this year. So we're very, very grateful to be here to share the work that we're doing, the impact that we're making on helping to reduce food insecurity and also to reduce climate change in North Central Mass. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. Moving down the line,
Yes.
another friend is our Community Health Connection partners.
Yes.
We have Denise Borsman here today, who's a registered dietitian, and she is going to talk a little bit about culturally competent initiatives to address food insecurities amongst health center families. We also visit the health center with our local market after or before we go to the cancer center.
The cancer. Hi, I'm Denise, and thank you, Congressman and Secretary, for inviting me to this roundtable to represent the Community Health Connections. Basically, what I am here, I am one-on-one with all the patients, a lot of diverse patients, a lot of Spanish, I have Creole, I have Haitian, Arabic, Portuguese. So it's a very challenging and exciting field that we're doing. So basically, they come and I am teaching with interpreters either in person or interpreters on the phone about food. So I do the very basic. And what I find is that we keep it very simple, okay? So every one of my patients goes home with a plate method with their language on how to build up their food. So they're learning about foods and good foods and so forth. Then the next step is how do they get the foods? Okay, so one of the things that we're looking at is probably going to really expand with the help of everybody else here around the table is doing where we could get to a place like a health center throughout a community center is have food demonstration, because you can teach them these foods. You could teach them the nutrients of the foods for them. But it's like, how do you get them? Another thing is how to prepare them. So that's our challenge, is trying to take it one step further as to be able to demonstrate. The Brockton Neighborhood Health Center had done a community center. They had a demonstration kitchen with the help. I'm going to introduce her too. Alex and I were talking about what we could do to provide equipment and so forth to these people so that we can take them to the next step. Very important to do that. So Community Health Connection, we provide the high quality, affordable care to the community. We are very diverse. It is incredible. It has been a very much of a learning experience to me to be able to cross the line and be able to culturally understand and study the different cultures and seeing what their needs are. And that goes from the lifespan. It goes from those little babies that are coming in, that are failure to thrive, all the way to the aging adults, maturing adults that have these complications of health conditions, and a lot have to do with their foods and not getting the food. So we're hoping that we can expand in what we're teaching at the table here, teaching and doing what we do, and the educational, all the things we get are like, we got recipes, but we need to know how to make them. They need to have the provisions to be demonstrated on how to do that. So that is really a vital thing for this community. And like I said, there's a lot of different, the span of the different diversity that we could be reaching out to. So thank you very much, and my friends.
Thank you, Denise. And then lastly on this side of the table, don't worry, I haven't forgotten. We have Making Opportunity Count in the Spanish American Center. also partners and friends, and I actually had Alex's position for 11 years at Mock, and so it's near and dear to my heart. So I will let Alex and Magdalena take it away.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Congressman McGovern and Secretary Becerra, for your inspiration and support, because we really need that. It's my name is Alex Welch, and I manage the food nutrition program, the elder nutrition program for Mock. And we serve about 600 meals a day, 1,500 clients that through our meals they are allowed to stay at home in their community, and also they get socialization as well. About 32,000 meals a year, so we're very proud of those services that we provide. However, we did have to look at the program and see what we were doing, and we noticed we had a big gap in services with our Hispanic population. We just weren't meeting the Spanish population, so we partnered with the Spanish American Center and also the Fitchburg Housing Authority, which I'll introduce in a moment. And because it really takes a village to do this, because we thought, oh, the Spanish American Center, these meals are going to be great. People are going to be coming out of the woodwork to get them, because they're fabulous meals. But no, we went to churches, nobody would show up. So it was really hard to get into those hands, the people that really needed it. And some of it is noble, that within this Hispanic community, family takes care of family. So, which is great, but that also can be a barrier to services. So that was a problem. Also, perhaps there's this notion that your rice and beans are never going to be as good as my rice and beans, so, which may be true. But luckily, Jose's rice and beans are amazing. So we're really thankful, But we still had a problem. We would not be able to get the meals to the people who needed it. And it was just so disheartening. We thought we had all the pieces. And then we met Tess, who was the elder housing coordinator through the Pittsburgh Housing Authority. And she was the key person to network and get us connected with those clients. So it was so exciting, and so willing to help us, So that was wonderful. And so through that partnership, and also Central Mass Agency on Aging, who without their support and funding, we wouldn't be able to begin this journey, because it's an expensive journey. We really need to, fund it and keep funding it. So through that partnership, it truly takes a village to really get those meals to people who need them. So that's enough about Mock. So then this is Miggy from the Spanish American Center.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. Bienvenido, Secretary Becerra y Governor. Good morning. Like I said, it's my honor, and I've been given this task by Mr. Jose Latimer to speak about what the Spanish American Center is doing to feed families. So some really great, exciting news is that during the month of July, the Spanish American Center cooked and delivered 8,634 meals. Of these meals, they were given to the elders in the elders program, our summer feeding program, which has about 17 sites. We're also service the homeless community, and an adult daycare center of Latinos also. So that goes to say how busy and how big the need is. And when we say food is life, los alimentos son vida, right? They not only nourish us physically in that we're gaining strength and we're being healthy, but there's also that cultural and emotional connection that people need to have. And so the Spanish American Center realized that, but we also had deep conversations around how to make our food healthy, right? And how to lower that salt intake. And in the beginning, it was a bit of a challenge, right? Folks were saying, eso no me gusta, eso no está bien. But as we continue to educate, and Spanish American is big on doing workshops and information to the community on nutrition, we see a slow change, right?
Yeah,
And Alice,
yeah.
so we are humbled to be here, and it does take a village. It takes all of us to be together, to be able to reach out to folks at the housing department where the clients are, that we can provide those services to. So Jose said, to let you all know, he does have a magic recipe for sofrito, which he will not share with anybody. But
I had to take it because I had to see how much fat was in it, and he said,
Yeah,
you cannot
right.
share this with
Right.
anybody.
So that is the magic key, but we do share it with all of our families and clients. And we're proud to say that we're going to continue this effort. Hunger is an issue. A person should not need to, have a reason as to why they're walking over to the Spanish American Center and saying, we're hungry. You don't need to have an excuse. We should be looking at how we can provide community with services. So I thank you both for this opportunity.
And last but certainly not least, we have our friends, and this is very interesting. So a couple things is, when I gave my introduction, I didn't speak about this, but food security works on a continuum. And so it works all the way from hunger, which we've heard about, all the way to self-sufficiency and security. And so we've heard about hunger, we've heard about making sure that when you're hungry, you get the best quality food possible, which is extremely critical. But we also need to make sure that it's sustainable. And we also need to address those root causes that are causing us to be hungry systemically. And so on this side of our panel, we have talked about kind of short and midterm strategies around hunger and food security. And on this side of the panel, we are going to talk about upstream strategies around food security. And so I will let Miranda Jennings, Angelina De La Santa, and Molly Valesco take it away about the Heal Winchendon project in partnership with Haywood Hospital and Growing Places.
Thank you, Anne.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Congressman McGovern and Secretary Becerra for having us, for organizing this. And thank you to everybody here for all the work you're doing. We're very humbled and grateful for the very, very hard work and important work that you're doing. I am Miranda. I work as the program manager for Heal Winchendon through Haywood Hospital. Haywood is a community-owned health system that serves our north central region. As we all know, in this region, we're experiencing high rates of nutrition-related chronic conditions, food insecurity, and low socioeconomics that are disproportionately affecting our residents of color. In response, Haywood has been working with community partners since 2014 to address immediate needs through things like the Weekend Backpack Program for children and families experiencing food insecurity, providing nutrition education, offering senior farm shares, and farmers market prescriptions to patients. However, more recently, our community health improvement approach has shifted from treating individuals and systems to a more upstream, as we like to call it, approach, focused on root causes within policies, systems, and environments to prevent disease, impact population health, and have lasting change. This approach recognizes that 80% of a person's health is actually determined by their living conditions and social context of where they live, work, play, and go to school, while only 20% is impacted by traditional medicine. Heal Winchendon is an example of an upstream approach. It stands for Hope, Empower, Access, and Live, and it started in 2019 when we lost our only grocery store in Winchendon. And all of us residents here realized quickly that fixing this issue and fixing our food system was going to be way more complicated than just bringing in another market basket or grocery store. We had to address really complex root causes, including poverty, power, racial equity, and belonging, just to name a few of them. Heal has grown as a community movement where organizations really do work in equal partnership with residents and youth to address the deep root causes of economic empowerment, social inclusion, and healthy food systems, which we see as really interconnected, interdependent entities that you can't work, as you were saying before, in silos. We try to get at the root causes of insecurity by addressing these systems, policies, and structural power inequities that are contributing to poor health and quality of life. Heal's youth and resident leaders are at the center for impacting this change by shifting power dynamics from those traditional leaders in town to the individuals that are actually impacted by the issues we're trying to solve. I'm joined here today by Heal resident leader Molly Velasco and our Youth Changemaker co-director Angelina De La Santa, who I'm going to be quiet now, and they're going to talk about the actual amazing work they do.
So the purpose of the Youth Changemaker program is to raise civic involvement and also help shape the next generation of policymakers by having them engage early and often with healthy food access, economic empowerment, and social inclusion, which are those additional health determinants that Miranda just spoke to. More specifically, youth have expressed an overwhelming need for better mental health, and we have found that mental health does in fact get better with a sense of belonging. And this is especially true for both our youth and residents alike that identify as part of historically underrepresented groups of people. Many residents of all ages in our community at various points have shared that they were scared to be their authentic selves. And over the course of doing this work, and with youth spearheading the way, I have seen individual confidences grow with each win, and then also our mission gained resilience with each setback. These youth changemakers that I have the unbelievable privilege of working with are outstanding human beings, and when given a seat at the table, they have strong, unwavering voices and fresh perspectives on how to overcome the challenges that our community face.
It's pretty common to hear adults in power say that teens don't have enough life experience to be able to make effective change. But with HEAL, we challenge these notions. So we're taught to ask questions, like what systems are in place that are causing people to become food insecure? Like, why does the SNAP gap exist? But more importantly, how do we as youth become involved in food systems that are sustainable, that not only help us benefit our community, but allow us to be taking part in these upstream changes? And as youth change makers, we have complete autonomy over what projects we want to pursue and accomplish. For example, Taste of Winchendon. We have this event every year called Taste of Winchendon. It's a cultural food festival, and it focuses on highlighting the different cultures and identities of Winchendon residents, while also promoting local economic empowerment. While planning this event, we're promoting skills such as grant writing, requesting permits, educating others on culturally appropriate food, and also emphasizing why having a sense of belonging is so important to the overall health of a community. Another initiative that we're involved in is the Youth Changemakers Sunshine Cafe. The Sunshine Cafe is a completely teen-run business that we started in order to address the overall lack of jobs, lack of a sense of belonging, and decrease in mental health of Winchendon residents. Through this initiative, we're working to address these problems, but we're also instilling essential life skills such as how to run a business, money management, customer service, and the importance of buying local. We started the business as a little push cart that we would push around town to a bunch of events in order to get our voices out there, but we've had the privilege to be able to expand to a stationary location in the center of Winchendon this summer. We did actually, our root leaders made some fresh squeezed lemonade from our cafe for all of you to sample if you get a chance. It's in the blue Cambro back there, so if you're interested, take a stop by. But so another thing that we are getting involved in is the Winchendon CAC Farm Stand, which we are doing in partnership with Growing Places in our Winchendon community gardens. Opening the farm stand has allowed our youth residents to further engage with the community, as well as promoting healthy food access, educating others on SNAP and HIP programs, encouraging them to enroll, and overall just supporting our local farmers. Fixing our food system is a very complicated process, and I feel like we all understand that, but if we, as everyday people and students, can't understand that, then we won't be able to work to change it. And in order to create effective change, we have to make room for all voices at the table. So we are working as Youth Changemakers to create an official Youth Town Council in Winchendon that will ensure that young people have a voice when creating policies, hopefully encouraging greater civic engagement and making the process of participating in local government way more accessible to all types of people. We're working to understand the complexities of these systems that were designed as Band-Aid solutions to deep-rooted problems, and eventually we want to be able to create a sustainable change.
If there's one thing you should take away from our presentation, it's not just about what we're doing, but how we're doing it and who is leading the way. It's about shifting the power so our youth and most vulnerable residents who are actually impacted by food insecurity, poverty, and other social determinants of health are the ones at the table with organizations and government officials to design these solutions in partnership. We've seen firsthand that this power shift is increasing access to healthy food, changing narratives and breaking stigma about poverty and hunger, and also increasing resident participation in leadership. Some essential practices that make the work we do possible is first recognizing that this work is not community service, but an active leadership role. Not everyone has the privilege of extra time to volunteer, which is why we've made an effort to make this work more equitable by securing funding for youth summer jobs through local farms and also youth leader and resident leader stipends through grants and nonprofits. We're also doing this by forming a youth and resident leadership boards, as Angelina spoke to, as it amplifies the voice of those most impacted and helps us identify the true needs of our community. It was the mutual search from both residents and youth on creating a healthier community that led multiple generations to getting in the garden and pulling weeds and growing vegetables and packaging those vegetables and getting them to the community members that need it. And then also educating each other on how to make healthier choices. And all of these address the various health concerns that play a role in that 80% of alternative health determinants and demonstrate that food really is medicine. By giving access to some of the resources that we've had while doing this work and by empowering those most impacted in community issues to lead the way, these initiatives, and again, more importantly, how we do these initiatives, can and should be replicated in other communities. That's why we're doing this work.
We are just happy to be taking a road trip in September to Washington, D.C. So if you'd like any youth to attend the conference, we're more than happy to provide some youth representation. We have a short video. Thank you, Molly and Angie. If it's, I don't know, we have a short video.
I don't think we have time.
Okay, we have time.
Unless, I mean, it's up to the scheduling, but I think.
We have a little, yeah, it's a 5-minute video that the youth and residents made.
Thank you. We can all look at it on the next event.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, we'll send it.
Yeah.
Great. So that is our panel. I know that maybe you have questions or some remarks that you'd like to make after that.
Do. And first, thank you for everything that's being done. And my suspicion is that for the dollar you spend, you're yielding us so much good that any private sector operation would probably be envious of what you're able to achieve. And so thank you for all you're doing. Especially for including young folks. I think that's so critical that early on they learn. My father we finally got him to take some of the salt out of some of the food. That was when he was in his 80s.
Yeah.
And he was already beginning to have the effects of it and congestive heart failure and the rest. But if you start much earlier, you obviously have a greater chance. The conference is gonna send a message, and it's also, as I said, going to yield something. I'm wondering if you could tell me what you hope most that the conference yields that will help you in everything you're doing.
Can I just say that for us, like you said, we encourage people to eat healthy. And healthy food is expensive. It's easier to grab a bag of French fries that are frozen versus going out and buying expensive, at least for our families that are struggling with food insecurity. So how to help and support working families in having access to affordable, healthy foods is critical, and affordable, healthy foods that they culturally can relate to as well.
You know the concept of food czar, and somebody that can work across the many agencies that touch this. And it seems now sometimes you're moving from one group to another trying to get change, and often in those situations a single leader that can work across is most helpful.
And I think we're also limited with the amount of dollars we can provide to our patients from a healthcare perspective. So it would be wonderful if we could increase the amount of help dollar-wise that we can provide to our patients from a healthcare perspective.
Yeah, from a CMS regulation perspective, we can't provide more than $500 in benefit, even if it's for the food that the patient needs in order to get the maximal benefit from the chemotherapy.
So from a cancer care perspective, if we need to provide a patient with a wig and some food and transportation, we're very limited to what we can provide patients.
And it's not
Today's
sustainable.
prices.
Right, one or the other, right?
I think one of the things that we would really want you to take back is just there's not one type of person who can do this work. If we can do this work, anyone can do this work. We all didn't have experience before this, and we're out there making an impact, and it's because we have people that are advocating for us to shift that power and really listening and getting the buy-in from the community. Like any initiatives that we do, we really involve like everyone in the community and really make sure that we're getting a diverse like feedback, so that way we can really make sure that everyone has that buy-in, right? If people aren't buying into the programs, they're not going to do it. And our youth are definitely very capable. I will add that till my last breath. They are so capable. They do amazing things with just some support from us, but they take the lead, and they are so able to do this work and should be given the opportunity.
And if there is funding to support, you know, like you mentioned, there's plenty of food in this country, but what we need are people to go out and change the system. So providing stipends for resident and youth leaders has really shown to be a great way to fairly compensate people for doing this hard work. And also it's way more effective than having people, you know, at the top trying to move it down. So building that into any solution would be great.
Mine would be, we need to look at a paradigm shift. So right now, we value food as a commodity or money, and we really need to shift it to a values-based supply chain instead of a dollars-based supply chain, but it's everything that everybody just spoke about in order to do that, and part of it is, to Dr. Dickinson's credit, talking about how there needs to be backbone organizations in every single region spearheading this, because it's a real thing, and if you look across the country, there are different organizations doing this, but it's not a federally funded program the way the WIC is, the school meal programs. And that. So can we shift that, and can we begin to address food security differently with a different model?
A hope that I would like to see is the opportunity to pilot what we're doing at North Central Mass nationally. So it would be really wonderful to really make an impact of empowering everyday people to reclaim their health using food as medicine, natural remedies, herbs, as well as sustainable gardening. I think we would not only make an impact when it comes to food, we could also make an impact when it comes to our environment. We are all impacted by our environmental changes. We're all impacted by what's happening in the water, in the air, in our food systems. So to be able to raise awareness and empower everyday people, I think it will make a huge shift, especially since the U.S. is considered a global power. And I think, you know, why are we letting ourselves be beaten by European countries or Asian countries? You know, we are a superpower, and I think that if we can make a shift when it comes to food as medicine and also the environment, it will be an amazing impact that we can make for future generations to come.
If I could just add one thing here, just a couple of things. One is the food is expensive right now, but that's why a lot of what you are doing here right now, in terms of helping familiarize people with what good food is, and also teaching them how to cook. If you can cook, you can stretch that dollar a little bit more. The other thing is that all the things that we've heard about today are successful because it's not just a good idea that's being put out there, it's about community building.
Yes.
There's community buy-in. And to what Dr. Dixon was talking about, some of the stuff, we've had many conversations about, you know, things that we would like to see in terms of nutrition more integrated into our healthcare system. The challenge always comes down to, is we got to fund this stuff, right? And so, you know, perhaps for those hospitals or those medical, institutions that are actually integrating nutrition more into their treatment and prevention. There's an old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I can prevent you from becoming a diabetic, and we're going to save the system a lot of money, but we're going to save you some misery. So if CMS could look at perhaps reimbursing a little bit more for those institutions that are doing the right thing, if we have a conversation with our insurance companies
Yes.
about, because at the end of the day, if you get it, if you have to go to the hospital and be treated, they have to pay out too. So if they could provide a little extra incentive for medical institutions to do more in terms of the nutrition field. Again, it's good for the patients, but it's also good for their bottom line as well. So, very rarely do we have these situations where we're asking the corporate world where the corporate world's interests actually align with what the average person's interests are. And here's one of those. Here's one of those moments. But it's about, and this is where I think it's important. The secretary's here. It's a lot easier to get people to buy into something if the leadership coming out of Washington is, we would like you to do this. We will help incentivize you to move in this direction. We will help you connect the dots because this works. We need to scale it up,
Yeah, we do.
right? And that's the challenge.
This region is starting to work
Right.
because of it.
So nobody said the word obesity. I think it's a really important word to say, and we've got a lot of children and adults that will, if they aren't already diabetic or suffering from, heart conditions, will be. And in this program, starting at kids young people to have nutritious foods, they are preventing going into all kinds of health conditions that are going to cost a lot more money. I mean, McDonald's and Wendy's didn't start making salads because they thought it was a good idea. They did it because they could make money at it, because people actually are demanding those kind of healthier foods. And if we shift the paradigm, and more of our fast food organizations are sort of forced into, because that's the economic piece, to offering things that are healthy, like school lunches are mostly made up of what looks like fast food to me, and it's very not great. And that's a huge area that we can address federally, because it's federally funded.
So we on the school lunches that we are trying. I mean, we and the child nutrition methods. I have a provision to try to increase the reimbursement.
You know
of
what
schools.
Yoda said? Not try, do.
Yeah,
So
well,
I'm just saying, we've got to start early.
Right, but we all need to be. I said before, this is a political condition, right? And the deal is we need to have people who will actually support initiatives. And one of the challenges with our schools is not just about access. It's not just about the quality of food. It's they don't have kitchens. They don't have refrigeration,
Exactly.
so then you're limited to what you can do. So we need to address that part of the infrastructure. But absolutely, and on the issue of obesity, I mean, there is a link between obesity and food insecurity, where people have to make really difficult choices. Sometimes the cheaper food is the food that is the less healthy for you. And we have people who live in areas in our own state. We have what I call food apartheids. I don't call them deserts, because deserts are natural, right? Apartheids are man-made. I was in the Bronx not too long ago. The biggest food apartheid in the country is in the Bronx, and every fast food restaurant in the world is there, but no supermarket. No store to, even if you had the resources to be able to get fresh produce. And there are ways around this, right? All of this is integrated. So we have to address it, and we have some great local leaders. By the way, I saw Representative Higgins was here, Senator Cronin I saw here earlier, and we have representatives from Senator Markey's office and Senator Warren's office, all really incredible leaders on this stuff. But as I said at the beginning, one of the challenges with this is that we look at, because of the way our system is set up, we look at this issue not holistically, but in little bits and pieces, and this gives us an opportunity to look at it holistically. So to address the schools and to address the hospitals and address everything else. I just said one final thing. I don't know when in our educational system it became okay to not teach nutrition, agriculture, or even food preparation in schools. But somewhere along the line, someone said, we're not doing it. Maybe you ought to put on the MCAS if that's what it takes to be able to do it. I mean, we don't even teach, doctors aren't even required to take courses in nutrition. But the bottom line is that, we need to teach this stuff early on in schools, because that's where you develop good habits. I was telling them before, I was in Harlem over the weekend, and I went to a place called Harlem Grown. And so they recaptured all these plots of land in Harlem, and they're growing food there. And then the guy who's behind all of this said, okay, I'll give this fresh produce, have young kids bring it home to their parents. They were bringing it home, and people said, why are you putting this in my refrigerator? What is this? So he says, it's not just the food. We have to teach why this is good. And if we get kids involved early on in growing things and seeing how things work. Then they have buy-in. I didn't even know about kale until about, I don't know, like late in life. I'm still trying to figure kale out. But anyway, but the bottom line is that, you know, what we're talking about with this conference, and we're talking about the food medicine part of it, is a paradigm shift, is this whole holistic approach, because the intersectionality with other issues is, you know, we would be here for weeks talking about it.
If I can please speak.
Give us your name.
Hi, I'm Kathy Goddard. I'm the nurse manager for Leominster Public Schools. And when I graduated from high school in the 1980s, it was mandatory that everyone had home ec. There's been 2 generations of parents that have not taken home economics. They do not know how to cook. They do not know how to read a recipe. Giving them food, giving them recipes alone, it's just not enough if they don't know how to read it, if they have not been exposed to those foods. If I could dream for anything out of this, I would love for you to push onto like the Department of Education to make home economics mandatory for graduation at least a couple of years, because that's where it starts. If obesity and everything really became big when people didn't know how to cook, and they didn't know, and the great thing, and it was mandatory for men and for boys and girls, it was mandatory for everybody to take it, and it's vital to give people the tools that they need to be successful in life, and it's such a simple, in my mind, it should be such a simple thing that would help us long term.
And I think we're going to cut the questions now, if that's all right, because I know that we're now behind schedule. We did so well.
Well, let me thank Secretary Becerra for being here. And I'll close and let him have the final word here. But I mean, I think, and you kind of mentioned at the beginning, you know, how we look at food. Food really is a fundamental human right for every single person on this planet, and we ought to view it that way. And the fact that there are so many people in our community that don't know where the next meal is going to come from is really quite sad, and it's something we could do something about. And you know, and understanding the importance of food as medicine, you know, as Dr. Dixon and others have talked about here today, I think, and thank you for your incredible work as well, involving young people is an essential part of this. This is all solvable. This is all solvable, and you know, and connecting the dots is key. That's what this discussion is about, and you know, up until recently, to be honest with you, so much of the top discussion has been focused on USDA, which is important, but the health components to this are vital. And then we have a Secretary of Health and Human Services who gets it, right? I mean, who gets it and understands the urgency. And by the way, the conference is on the 28th of September. That's not the end of it. It's really the beginning of this discussion and process. And so we look forward to continuing to work with you. But I'll give you the last.
Congressman, so if I could start with a quick story. When I got to Worcester and I got invited by the Latino community to come eat, because you know, at that point, here's a West Coast kid coming to the East Coast. They said, "Vamos a tener arroz con habichuela," and I said, "Arroz, I know. Habichuela, I don't know, because I've always known it as arroz y frijoles." Yeah, rice and beans, rice and beans. And so I was kind of concerned. I don't know if I'm going to like habichuela. I got to tell you, I love beans. I'm a big bean. But it's the things you don't know that hurt you most.
Yeah, right.
And what Americans don't realize is, as Congressman McGovern said, we could solve this because we produce more food than anybody else in the world. We just don't distribute it very well. It's not always the best for us, but we could. And so I think at HHS, we're going to take up this mantle that food is medicine. Because we want, at least from the health perspective, for folks to know when you're about to put something in your mouth, you're putting some form of nutrition in your mouth. And it either is going to be really healthy for you, or it's going to lack a lot of that nutrition. And if we can go that step, maybe at the Department of Ed, they can go the step of saying that part of the 3 R's means teaching you what it means to have nutrition in your diet. That part of curing someone in a hospital or a health facility is making sure that they know what kind of diet they're going to have before they come into the hospital, while they're there, and afterward. That's all to say that we can do this, as the Congressman just said. But here's the thing: who would have believed that our private industries think it is wise to put more salt in our potato chips than in the potato chips of Europeans? Who would have believed that industry would believe it's good for us to have all these chemicals that enhance flavor so that you'll buy more of this stuff? I hate to say it, but I love Lay's barbecue potato chips. And it's true, Lay's is right. You can't eat just one. But the thing is, you have to know what you're eating. And so I would only put before you the task we have before us. Defining healthy should not be difficult. I guarantee you it will be difficult, because there will be an onslaught, an army of lawyers who will contest what Congressman McGovern might want to do, what we might want to do in defining healthy, because there's a lot of money behind that definition. And so I hope that you will help us communicate to the American people that we can do this. It's actually pretty simple, but it's actually really hard, because there are a lot of very vested interests that don't want to change things. And it's up to us, as they did in 1969, to say, we're going to change the game. We have an opportunity to have some real game changers, and we're going to be the change makers. So I hope to see some of you on September 28th. I know I'm going to see this guy. And I look forward to what comes from that launch, because it's time for us to really make a big difference. So thank you for inviting me here today.
Sure.